Warning, the video you are about to see contains some major spoilers for Avengers Endgame. Enjoy. Hello. First off, this is a very special video. First time I'm doing this, so bear with me. Avengers Endgame. Saw it Sunday. Amazing. Very freaking, from beginning to end, amazing. Like, emotional all the way through. There were laughs, there were cries, everything else in between, anger, hatred, some other stuff that's confusing. Anywho. So, I mean, the movie itself starts off strong here. Like, very strong. Because, like, it doesn't start with, like, a time... It doesn't start with the time gap that there is. That they announced basically from day one that there would be that 5-year time... There would be a 5-year gap somewhere. They didn't say where, they didn't say how, but they said there'd be a 5-gap things. But they started off strong. Before the opening credits, before anything, they started with the snap. And not like, you know, oh, you didn't hear the snap and everything happened again that we saw in Infinity War. No, we saw from the perspective of a character we haven't seen since Civil War. And it's Hawkeye. Spending time with his family under house arrest because he had the anklet thingy. They never really said how he got that off. Probably because they needed him or something. I don't know. And he's looking for his family, can't find him. And then jump over to... Then jump to outer space. We see Tony Stark and Nebula in space, floating, whatever, you know, trying to figure out a way to get back, trying to find a way to survive, with very little action, very little food. And somehow, miraculously, Captain Marvel shows up and saves the day. But the question is, how? How did she know where they were? Was she just randomly traveling and boom, she just happened to show up? Did she meet the Avengers? And did they say, hey, Tony Stark is gone, go find him. We know he's not dead, or something like that. But it was interesting because I watched the end credits scene just so I could have some context for this. She showed up at the Avengers headquarters after her thing went off, and all she asked is, where's Fury? And they knew that Tony wasn't there or anything. You could tell us by watching. So I don't wonder if maybe like they're like, hey, you know, Tony's in space somewhere. Go get him for us, please. Go see if he's still alive. Because, I mean, this is like a short period of time from the time that she shows up after the snap to, like, finding him. Even though he was in space for 22 days. Still. So then now they're trying... So then from there, Tony gets back. They're healing him. He takes off his thingamajig, whatever it is. I forgot what it's called. He takes it off and everything, collapses because he's exhausted. He needs stuff. So basically, he blacks out. So he's kind of rendered useless at this point. But then they find out that there's some energy going on the planet, thanks to Captain Marvel's help. They find Thanos. Basically, they hunt him down. They hunt down Thanos. Chop up his arm so he can't use the gauntlet. They realize the stones are gone. They said he used the stones to destroy the stones, and it nearly killed him. Because like we saw after he snapped, you know, it's kind of burnt. But then it looked like it got worse because he used it again, snapped, destroyed the stones using the stones, which within itself is very confusing. And from there, you know, they're, you know, fighting him and stuff. Thor's just like, there goes his arm. And they did it again. They asked him, why? And that was a good question. It's like, why? They could have used him to figure out how to figure out something to get the stones. Because there are people in the Marvel universe, not necessarily the MCU yet, but there are people in the universe who'd be able to help them, like, get the stones back, use the stones, create artificial ones long enough to use them, or something of that capacity. And then, poof. But Thor chops his head off, says, "I went for the head," and walks off. And it's like, what the heck? And then we have a 5-year gap. They're showing the world, very few people, very, a lot of, I guess you could say a lot of trash everywhere. Cars piled up, trash in the streets, because it's like, because people, when they got dusted, they were crashing their cars, everything was happening. But then Ant-Man comes back because of a mouse. And I saw this thing, it was really funny. And I feel like we have to be thanking this little itty bitty mouse for saving the universe. Because this little itty bitty mouse pressed a button which shot Ant-Man, Scott Lang, out of the quantum realm, which it brought him home basically. 5 years gone, he's like, what the heck's going on? He can't figure out anything because he just he wasn't there. For him, it was 5 hours, whereas in the movie time, for us it was like 5 minutes, but for them it was like 5 years, which, actually, you know what? Wait, no, Ant-Man and the Wasp was a couple years ago, never mind. At the most. I was about to say, well, it's 5 years, no, never mind. So then, they find him, he shows up, they go looking for Thor, who, needless to say, he likes beer. Because Thor got fat. It was the greatest thing ever. Because, he just got fat. His hair grew out, he got fat. And he plays Fortnite. I don't know how to deal with that. Thor plays Fortnite. There's nothing wrong with that, and it does kind of speak to Thor's character. But then, they go searching, they go to find Hulk, Hawkeye, anybody who's not there. Black Widow kind of took over. She was kind of taking over. She, Captain Marvel, Rocket, I forgot her name, Michonne from The Walking Dead, and the Iron Patriot. This is bad. I can't remember their names. They were kind of out doing stuff, and I think her name is Sherry. No, it begins with an O. I'm just gonna call her O because I forgot her name all of a sudden. She was talking about how there was murmurs, kind of little earthquakes under the earth in Atlantis. And at first it's like, oh, yeah, there's nothing. But who lives in Atlantis in the MCU, or Atlantis type thing, type city? Namor from the Fantastic Four. And so it's just like, interesting. They could easily use that as a guiding tool. Like, hey, I'm pretty sure he's a Fantastic Four villain. Or anti-hero. He's something. He belongs to the Fantastic Four. So, they could easily use that, which more on that in a few minutes. But then, of course, they're seeing, drug cartels and everything else. They track Hawkeye. Black Widow goes and finds him, brings him back, tracks him down in Japan. He's got some sick tattoos, too. I think they hinted at, he is Ronin, I can't think of the rest of it, Ronin something. And then, of course, when they find Hulk, Bruce Banner, he's a combination. He looks like Hulk, but he talks, sounds, and has the facial features of Banner. So he's big and green, but he's Bruce Banner at the same time. And it was great, because then they figure out time travel. Tony Stark figures out time travel. And they don't give context of how long he was working on it. They don't give context of any of that. It's just they figure out time travel and bring him back. Or not bring him back, but he figures it out. They set it up and they try it. With some failed attempts, Scott Lang becomes an old man, a baby, a kid. And then he gets back to himself, and then some jokes are out and about. But when they explained the theory of time travel, it made more sense than any time travel movie in the past. I love Back to the Future, but the way it's explained in Endgame made way more sense in the concept of, changing the past whatever. Yeah, you don't want to change the past in general because then that creates that alternate timeline and it throws everything off. You have to go out and fix what you did. All that remains the same, but with this, they're also talking about they use more sciencey stuff. I understand the theory of time travel, alternate universes, and everything, but I ain't no science guy, that's for sure. But it was interesting how they explained it because of the fact that, because later in the movie we see some things where some people who were in the past come back and they die, but it doesn't affect anything that's happened. Because once those past people traveled to the future, they suddenly became their own entity. So, for example, if I shouldn't say I'm dumbing it down, but saying it this way help me understand it better. So, like, what it is, so, like, say I went back in time, grabbed 13-year-old me and brought him here, that would not change my timeline at all. Everything would still be the same because 13-year-old me is still there, but the 13-year-old me that is here now becomes his own separate entity. So if I were to say, for example, he were to die or get severely sick and damage, like, something happen, that would not affect me, like me personally, but it would affect 13-year-old me and his new life. Whereas my timeline doesn't get affected for the most part at all. So, I mean, they explain time travel using actual, like, science and physics and quantum physics and all that crap without actually destroying or damaging anything. But then, of course, there's some hijinks in the process. Tracking down the stones, losing a stone, meeting some people, fighting themselves, and of course, sadly, the first major and impactful death of Endgame was, in order for them to get the Soul Stone, someone had to die. Black Widow and Hawkeye were the ones tracking it down, and they were fighting over who would jump over, which within itself was funny, because they were basically trying out to each other, like, hey, I'm the one dying. No, I'm the one dying. No, I'm the one dying. No, I'm the one. But sadly, Black Widow was the one that sacrificed herself, sent herself down dead. Clint got the stone, but it kind of wrecked him. But that does mean that the Black Widow movie is most likely a prequel. But hey, at least we get to see Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow again. So I'm not complaining about that. She looked good in that suit. Apologies. And then, so there's that, all those hijinks. Nebula gets left behind, not intentionally, but she gets stopped because she's on the same, like, network as past Nebula, and that creates everything. Thanos figures out everything that's happening, what's going to happen, and all of that, hence them using 2014 Nebula to get 2014 Thanos to 2023 present day Marvel Universe. But then of course during that time, like during all of that, at the same time, Tony is creating, I guess you say, like an artificial gauntlet. But this one, they didn't show what the original gauntlet, but with this one, it adjusts the size of the wearer. So if, say, Spider-Man wore it, it would shrink down to his hand. If Hulk wore it, it would expand it to his hand. Hulk was the one that ended up wearing it because, the worst thing that happened to him is he suffered the same thing that Thanos did, because he snapped and brought everybody back. And it showed that it worked because Hawkeye got a call from his wife, and Ant-Man was looking outside, seeing and hearing the birds. And then tragedy struck because then Thanos shoots, he comes through the time portal, shoots their building, and everything just boom. So then they're trying, like, Rocket, Rocket, what's his face, Iron Patriot, and, War Machine, and, what's his name? the point is they get rescued by Ant-Man and everything else, but Hawkeye ends up being trapped down there with the gauntlet. He grabs it, he runs, he's, knows what he has to do. And he gets stopped by Nebula. He thinks, oh, it's Nebula. And then he finds out it's past Nebula. Then current Nebula shoots her, but it doesn't kill her. Hence the whole, you just created a whole new, brand new person, new entity, everything else, without actually affecting your past at all, because they're still there. It's like they never left. Their timeline is still going as it should, whereas they're actually, getting affected by it. Well, so Nebula shot past Nebula, but it didn't kill current Nebula because what had happened and everything else. Nope, thought I had a cough, sorry. So their base gets destroyed, and then the awesome battle. Is there anything on that page? No. Then the battle itself starts. Cinematically beautiful. It's Thor, Fat Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America taking on Thanos. And it is amazing. It is cinematically beautiful. Very beautiful. And I'm getting blurry. And the fight itself is great. Iron Man is like, I shouldn't say down for the count, but he's kind of down for the count for a few seconds there. Thor is fighting Thanos, and Thanos has a Stormbreaker, and he's like pushing it and trying to kill Thor, like right here in the chest. He's pushing it in, close to killing Thor, and all of a sudden we see Mjolnir move. Like it gets picked up, but it gets moved. And at first it's like, what's going on here? Is Thor bringing it to him? Because he brought it from the past, but it's like, is he using it? Is he bringing it to him to like basically smash Thanos in the head? What's going on? Next thing we know, Thanos gets hit with it, and Cap's wielding it. Thor is ecstatic. I remember people in the theater were like, woo, clapping, because it's like, finally we get to see that. And so then they're all fighting, and there's some cool stuff. Cap throws a shield, throws Mjolnir at it, bounces back, and everything else. And then as everybody's kind of getting the crap kicked out of them, Thanos stands there in his army, Cap's standing there, Thanos standing there doing like a stare down, even though they're like football fields length apart at the very least. Thanos' army lines up, keeps lining up, keeps lining up, keeps lining up. And then the ships start lining up. Then all of a sudden, you hear on a comm, Cap on your left, which is like, why wasn't Captain America wearing, how did we know he was wearing it? Then all of a sudden, the little portal opens up. Here comes Falcon, and here comes Black Panther, and all of Wakanda. And then Doctor Strange, and then Wong, and all the people who could do the stuff that Wong and Doctor Strange can do. And then everybody else comes in. Then Falcon. Oh wait, I already said that. I'm sorry. And then Doctor Strange, Drax, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, etc., all those, everybody who's been snapped showed up. And when they were showing a lineup, I have to get a closer look to it, because I'm probably going to see it again, but I have to get a closer look at it. But as they were lining up, I guess apparently Howard the Duck makes a small, quick, it's just a quick glimpse, but he's there. And it's like, I saw that someone said something about it, and I'm like, how did I miss that? But anyway, and then as they're all lining up, a few line up next to him, and all of a sudden, Cap yells, Avengers, and it's like, ooh, what's going to happen to him? And he says it, after 11 years and too many movies to count, Captain America finally says, Avengers, assemble. And then they charge into battle. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And it's amazing how two words creates goosebumps, and then just epic battle. Everybody's fighting, and then of course they're passing the gauntlet back and forth, trying to get it to the quantum realm thingy-mabob. Yeah, I'm just gonna call it the thingy-mabob. And they're going towards it. And at one point, Spider-Man gets his hands on it, and he gets thrown to the ground. He's holding it. He's basically cradling it like he would a baby. And all of a sudden, Captain Marvel comes to rescue. It's like, she's been gone the entire movie, and she's out of nowhere, basically just stands there, looks at him, says, he's like, hi, I'm Peter Parker. Hi, Peter Parker. And then she's like, you have something of mine. And then women show up. They fight Thanos off. He gets the gauntlet where it needs to be. Well, Thanos gets his hands on it, but it gets to where it needs to be is the point. And Captain Marvel's the only one who's basically stopping him from snapping his fingers, you know, anything he can do with it. And with the female moment, people were complaining, oh, they're trying to force it. It's like, dude, it was all fighting, very little dialogue, which, I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. It made it fascinating to watch, because with that scene itself, that scene as a whole, there didn't need to be any dialogue. It could have just been straight up fighting for 10 minutes straight, no dialogue, and it would have been amazing, no matter if it was men and women, all men, doesn't matter. Because it was an amazing fight scene within itself, and people were, you know, complaining a little bit because people gotta find something to complain about. But anyway, Tony Stark gets his hands, well, Thanos is about to snap, and all of a sudden he snaps, and it's like nothing happens. He looks, stones are gone, and Tony's just standing there, and the stones are, you know, into his I got hair in my eye, his thing, basically a homemade gauntlet. And he sits there, and Thanos is just like, who do you think you are? And he's just like, I am Iron Man. Snap. And then after the snap, everything starts to disappear. Thanos' army, ships, everything. And then, probably in my opinion, one of the most emotional moments in that movie was after that. You know, we see Tony, you know, we see Thanos disappear, we see Tony, basically the whole right side of his body is burned away. And it's sad within itself because he's kind of just like, I guess he's incoherent. And Spider-Man shows up and is trying to like, hey, you know, stay with me. Pepper shows up and she tells him he can finally rest now. And he dies. And it was very sad. I'm not gonna lie, I cried at that. A little bit, not like anything. I was holding it back, but it was a very, very sad moment because it started with Iron Man, and it's not ending with Iron Man, thankfully, but it started with Iron Man, and it went from there. It started with him, and the original Avengers in the MCU ended with him, so to speak. But then everybody was at his funeral. Spider-Man, the Avengers, everybody. And they took his original, whatever you want to call it, put it on a thing and sent it out in the water. And it said proof that Tony Stark had a heart. And it was a very touching moment. And then they decided to send the stones back. They were all in the same area, at least on Tony's property. And Captain America was going to take all the stones back. He had Mjolnir with him. He had his shield. Well, he didn't have a shield. He just had Mjolnir. And he goes back. And then when they try to bring him back, nothing happens. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. They thought maybe Bruce had messed something up, only to find out that he might have stayed somewhere. And then they see him on the bench, and I feel like Bucky knew, because Bucky didn't say anything, and they had a heartfelt goodbye for some reason. But Bucky did what he did, or Bucky knew that he did what he did. And they go to talk to him, and Falcon talks to him. And so now we have a new Captain America, technically. But then, when it shows Steve and Peggy dancing at the end, you know, you got that dance and everything in their house. He stayed in the 40s or 50s, wherever. From the time he got frozen, he stayed there. And some people, you know, are like, oh, you know, it creates a tangent timeline because, you know, things didn't go as supposed to and everything else. But they failed to remember that Peggy got married, yes, but they never named her husband. Her husband remains unnamed to this day. So there is the possibility that her unnamed husband was Steve. And that wouldn't destroy the timeline, that wouldn't create a change timeline, nothing, because we have no idea who her husband was. Her husband could have been Cap, for all we know. But when Captain America, he handed off the shield to him, and it was a brand new shield, he's like, because he told, this is yours, and he said, no, it's not. And at first it's like, we talk about, that is your shield. But if you go back to the battle with Thanos, Thanos destroyed the shield. The shield was in half. Like, literally, only half of it was left. And you could tell that, you would be able to tell if something like that was repaired, because you'd still see some indication of what happened to it. But then, of course, there's that, and then, of course, it's like, Thor's still part of is he a part of the Guardians now? But that's the biggest thing that was bugging me about Endgame. How is it all of Peter's friends, and even Flash Thompson, his enemy, still in high school? Even though I'm pretty sure Peter was the only one from that group affected by Thanos' snap. Like I said, unless they changed it. They could have changed it. And they could have, because, they didn't show it. So they could have been like, yeah, that happened. They could have been like, no, that didn't happen or it did because for continuity. But I'm excited to see where this goes, because Endgame was the end of the Infinity Saga, as they call it, which was like the first 3 phases. But Spider-Man Far From Home is what ends Phase 3. So I'm wondering whether, because I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is supposed to be a part of Phase 4. And the Guardians are a team. So, they have already implicated that there are teams, of course, the Avengers, but there are other teams out there. They have implied that they have, they're like, hey, here it is, here's how it goes, here's the down low. And when they bring in, like, the Fantastic Four, they could easily just do the origin story again for the Fantastic Four. That's not a problem. They go into space, hit some weird rays or radiation, whatever it is going on, and then turn around, and boom, we got the Fantastic Four. No problem. And, they could bring in Chris Evans as a Human Torch again. That's, they could. But, it's all just a matter of where it goes from here. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm interested to see how they play this out. I'm also interested to see what they do to, like, keep everything going, because I feel like the MCU is going to go for a very, very long time. And I think that's a bad thing. There's so much story that they can do. There's so much that they can do. Secret Wars, like multiple Secret Wars, couple Civil Wars, teams, I guess the Eternals are supposed to be one of the next things they do. There's the Disney Plus streaming stuff, Falcon and Hawkeye, Wanda and Vision, Winter Soldier, Falcon, my bad, etc. And then, of course, there's the Netflix series. If they could get those, keep them going, and introduce them into the MCU, even if it's just like a quick end credit scene cameo, then they can easily do something with that. And I realized I have left out Stan Lee's final cameo. It was very funny. They made him look very young, and it was awesome. But he said, "Make love, not war." But like I said, back to what I'm saying, I'm interested to see where they go with this. They could do a Stan Lee cameo with just archive footage alone. Like, archive footage alone, they could easily be like, here's Stan Lee. It's not really Stan Lee, but here's Stan Lee. They could have somebody stand in and then just archive footage or something. If they really wanted. I don't think they should. Mostly because even though Stan Lee plays a big, big, big part in everything that is Marvel, I feel like his final cameo should stay his final cameo. Even after death, it should stay his final cameo, for the sole reason of he has given so much to entertain us, the viewers, us, the people, that if they just keep adding him in, it'll just not really, it wouldn't feel right. Now, if they did it like like one thing I saw, it was kind of funny. He just have Deadpool with a mustache and glasses over his mask or his outfit, and him pretending to be Stanley. That'd be kind of funny, to a degree, doing that. But that's, a whole nother thing for a whole nother time. Because I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. So, with that said, thank you all so much for watching. Please hit that like button. I would like to actually make this a constant thing. Watch a movie, watch a show. Like, next year's Supernatural's ending. I would like to, kind of remember, something like that. But the point is, so I'm gonna try. I'm not necessarily like an every week or every month thing. Just kind of like when I see a movie, do a review on it, give my thoughts. Kind of see what's going on, and then have people, watch these videos and put their questions that they had and stuff, and then eventually get to a point where, like, say, so many questions build up, or so many same questions or whatever. Answer these questions. Answer, like, my thoughts on these questions. So, like, one question I saw is, how are they gonna, like, for example, what are they gonna next? Where are they gonna go next with this? Boom, be like, okay, my thought is this. Something like that. So, yeah. So, once again, with that said, thank you all so much for watching. Please hit that like button. If we should see more videos like this, or just anything I do in general, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon to get that notification, and I will see you guys around.